With Donald Trump re-elected as president, you may be wondering how his proposed policies affect your business. From sourcing products to competing with Chinese brands, we'll cover everything you need to know about tariffs, trade, and how to adapt your strategy. First, let's start with the basics. What exactly are tariffs and how do they work? A tariff is a tax that a government imposes on imported goods to help fund the federal government. It's also used as a negotiation tactic for trade agreements. Higher tariffs usually result in higher consumer prices on imported goods and may encourage consumers to buy domestically made alternatives, which in theory should boost the local economy and workforce. Tariffs are calculated as a percentage of the total value of the imported goods. This value includes the cost of the product, shipping, and insurance, also known as the CIF value. For example, if you import $10,000 worth of tumblers and the tariff rate is 25%, you'll owe an additional $2,500 when the shipment arrives in the US. So who pays for these tariffs? It's not the Chinese supplier, it's you, the importer. When your shipment arrives at customs, you're responsible for paying the tariff before your goods are released. If you use DDP shipping, delivery duty paid, the supplier pays these fees up front, but the cost is passed along to you as part of the total price. So one way or another, the tariff almost always ends up affecting your bottom line. Now let's talk about President Trump's proposed policies and how they could affect your business. In a recent statement, Trump said, "We will impose universal baseline tariffs on most foreign products. This will end our reliance on China and bring back millions of jobs to America." Reports suggest these tariffs could range from 10 to 20% on most imports, with even higher rates on Chinese goods, potentially up to 60%. This policy mirrors Trump's first term when he imposed tariffs on $250 billion worth of Chinese goods, with rates as high as 25%. These tariffs significantly impacted e-commerce sellers who source from China. For example, prices for electronics, kitchen tools, and fitness products increased as manufacturers passed on the added costs onto importers. Many sellers had to raise prices, cut into their profit margins, or find alternative suppliers to stay competitive. Now let's talk more specifically about Amazon. Chinese brands account for over 60% of new sellers on Amazon. These Chinese sellers thrive on low production costs and their ability to undercut American competitors' prices. But what happens if tariffs make exporting to the US significantly more expensive? Higher tariffs could erase their price advantage, giving American sellers a better chance to compete. However, some Chinese brands may sidestep these tariffs by shipping directly to consumers from international warehouses. Others might absorb the costs temporarily to maintain their market share. For US-based sellers, this presents both opportunities and challenges. On one hand, less price competition from China could make it easier to dominate certain categories. On the other, expect Chinese brands to double down on aggressive marketing and fulfillment strategies to stay competitive. How do you think this will all play out? Diversifying your supply chain is one of the best ways to protect your business from tariff risks. Here's how to find factories outside of China. First, use sourcing platforms like Alibaba, Global Sources, and IndiaMart. For suppliers in the US or Mexico, try ThomasNet, which focuses on local manufacturers. Second, attend trade shows like the Vietnam International Trade Fair or the India International Trade Fair to meet suppliers face to face. Now, I know that's not super practical for most people watching this video, so the third option might be the best. Hire a sourcing agent with expertise in countries like Vietnam, India, or Mexico. Platforms like Upwork or agencies like Dragon Sourcing can connect you with professionals who can vet suppliers and negotiate better deals. Finally, look into free trade zones. Countries like Mexico under the USMCA agreement and Vietnam under several free trade agreements offer tariff-free trade or reduced costs when exporting to the US. This can make sourcing from these regions much more affordable. A likely question that will arise for sellers like you who may be sourcing in China is whether Chinese manufacturers will lower their prices to you to offset tariffs. In some cases, yes. During the 2018-19 trade war, many factories reduced costs slightly to retain their clients. But keep in mind, this depends on their profit margins and global demand. If demand remains high, factories may not feel the need to lower prices significantly. However, if US demand drops due to tariffs, you could negotiate better pricing. This is a great time to build strong relationships with your suppliers and discuss ways to share the burden of increased costs. Now let's get practical. How can you protect your business from these changes? First, audit your supply chain. Know where your products are manufactured and assess the risks tied to specific countries or regions. Second, diversify your suppliers. Explore alternatives in Vietnam, India, and Mexico to reduce dependence on a single market. Third, focus on pricing strategies. If tariffs increase your costs, consider positioning your products as premium offerings to justify higher prices. Fourth, build cash reserves to weather potential disruptions in your supply chain or sudden cost increases. Finally, use tools like Jungle Scout, Smart Scout, or Helium 10 to evaluate profitability and identify opportunities in less competitive niches or niches that you can source products effectively outside of China. In summary, Trump's proposed tariffs and trade policies could create challenges for e-commerce sellers, but they also open doors for those willing to adapt. By understanding tariffs, diversifying your suppliers, and staying proactive, you can navigate these changes and come out stronger. Predicting economics is like trying to predict the stock market. We can rely on historical data to predict future outcomes, but we truly don't know until we know. In the same way this election may have shocked many people who predicted otherwise, economists who warn of the dangers of Trump's tariffs policies may be just as surprised when the dust settles. Regardless of who you voted for or whether you agree or disagree with Donald Trump's economic plan, one thing is for sure: you need to pay attention. Change is coming, and adapting to that change will be vital to your long-term success. Are you excited or worried about the potential changes? Let us know in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video.